よいしょ、よいしょ。テステス、テステステステス、テステステステステス、テステステステステス、テステスでテスよ。はい、どうも皆さんこんにちは。新人 Vtuber の若月リクと申します。それでは、本日は幸福の江戸川ワイルドさん幸福な王子を読んでいきたいと思います。皆様とね、大変良き時間を共に過ごせたら、素敵なことだと思います。何よりも。それではやってまいりましょう。ちょっと待ってね。ポストするから。はい、まどかさんこんばんは。本配信は、江戸川ワイルド作、幸福の王子。これを朗読する配信となっております。ゆえ、あまりコメントなどには反応できないと思いますが、ぜひとも楽しんでいってくださると大変ありがたいです。もう一度繰り返します。本配信は、江戸川ワイルド作、幸福な王子の朗読配信となっております。そのため、あまりコメントなどへ反応はできませんが、ぜひとも楽しんでいただけると幸いでございます。Be attention please. それでは皆様やってまいりましょう。ちょっと待ってね。どこだっけ？本のやつどうだっけ？どこだっけ？本。あった。Hi, The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde. High above the city, on the tall column, stood the statue of the Happy Prince. He was gilt over with twin levels of fine gold. For eyes, he had two broad sapphires, and a large red rubies glowed on his short sword hilt. He was very much admired indeed. He is as beautiful as a witch rock, remarked one of the town councillors, who wished to gain a reputation for having artistic taste. Only not quite so useful, he added, fearing lest people should think he's unpractical, which he really was not. Why cannot you like the Happy Prince? asked a sensible mother of her little boy, who was crying for the moon. The Happy Prince never dreams of crying for anything. I'm glad there is someone in the world who is quite happy, muttered a disappointed man as he gazed at the wonderful statue. He looked just like an angel, said the charity children as they come out of cathedral in their bright scarlet cloaks and their green white pinafores. 合ってるかな読み方。How do you know? Says the mathematical mother. You have never seen one. Oh, But we have, in our dreams, answered the children, and the mathematical mother worried and looked very severe, for he didn't approve of children dreaming. One might there throw over the city a little swallow. His friends had gone away to Egypt 6 weeks before, but he had stayed behind, for he was in love with the most beautiful lady. He had met her early in the spring as he was flying down the river after a big yellow moth, and has been so attracted by her slender waist that he had stopped to talk to her. "Shall I love you?" said the swallow, who liked to come to the point at once, and the lead made him a low bow, so he flew round and round her, touching the water with his wing, and making silver rips. This was his courtship, and it lasted although the summer. It is a ludicrous attachment. Twittered the other swallows. She had no money, and far too many relations, and indeed the river was quite full of leaves. Then, when the autumn comes, they all fell away. After they had gone, he felt lonely, and began to tire of his lady love. She had no conversation, he said, and I am afraid that she is a conquered. For she is always fighting with the wind, and suddenly, whenever the wind blew, the lead made the most graceful curtsies. I admit that she is domestic, he continued, but I love traveling, and my wife, consequently, should love traveling also. Will you come away with me? She said finally to her. But the lead shook her head. She was so attached to her home. You have been trifling with me, he cried. I'm off to the pyramid. Goodbye. He flew away. All day long he fell, and at night time he arrived at the city. Where shall I put up? He said. I hope the town has made preparations. Then he saw the statue on the tall ground. I will put up there, he cried. It is a fine position, with plenty of fresh air. So he alighted just between the feet of Happy Prince. I heard a golden bedroom, he said softly to himself as he looked around, and he prepared to go to sleep. But just as he was putting his head under his wing, a large drop of water fell on him. What a curious thing, he cried. There is not a single cloud in the sky. The stars are quite clear and bright, and yet it is raining. The climate in the north of Europe is really dreadful. The lad used to like the rain, but that was merely her selfishness. Then another drop fell. Where is the use of statue if it cannot keep a rain off? She said. I must look for a good chimney pot, and she determined to fly away. But before he had opened his wings, a third drop fell. And he looked up and saw. Oh! What did he see? The eyes of the happy prince were filled with tears, and tears were running down his golden cheeks. His face was so beautiful in the moonlight that the little swallow was filled with pity. はい、チキンさんこんばんは。本配信は幸福の江戸川ワイルド作、幸福の王子の朗読配信となっております。あまりコメントには反応できないんですけれども、もしよければ楽しんでいってくださいね。Who are you? He said. I'm the happy prince. Why are you weeping then? Asked the swallow. You have quite drenched me. When I was alive and had a human heart, answered the statue. I did not know what tears were, for I lived in the palace of Sanssouci, where sorrow is not allowed to enter. In the daytime, I played with my companions in the garden, and in the evening, I led the dance in the great hall. Round the garden ran a very lofty wall, but I never cared to ask what lay beyond it. Everything about me was so beautiful. My countenance called me the happy prince, and happy indeed I was. If pleasure be happiness, so I lived and so I died. And now that they have set me up here so high that I can see all the ugliness and all the misery of my city. And so my heart is made of lead, yet I cannot choose but weep. What? Is he not sold gold? Here said the swallow to himself. He was too polite to make any personal remarks out loud. Far away, continued the statue in a low musical voice. Far away in the little street there is a poor house. One of the window is open, and through it I can see a woman seated at the table. Her face is thin and warm, and she wears coarse, red hands, all picked by need. By the needle. For she is a seamstress. Says embroidering passion flowers on the satin gown for a loveliest of the queen's maid of honor to wear the next court ball. In a bed in a corner of the room, her little boy is lying ill. He has a fever and is asked for organs. And is asking for oranges. His mother has nothing to give him but liver water, so he is crying. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not bring her the ruby out my sword hilt? My feet are fastened to this pedestal, and I cannot move. Ruby さん、nice to see you. Yeah. Today is I'm leading a Happy Prince, the Happy Prince. So I cannot too much response the comment, but I appreciate that you're very fantastic. 了解が、yeah, thank you. I'm waited for in Egypt, said the swallow. My friends are flying up and down the Nile, and talking to the large lotus flower. Soon they will go to sleep in the tomb of the great king. The king is there himself in his a painted coffin. He is wrapped in a yellow linen and embalmed with spices. Round his neck is a chain of pale green jade, and his hands are like wizard leaves. チャンネル登録ありがとうございます。Swallow, swallow, little swallow, says the prince. Will you not stay with me for a night and be my messenger? The boy is so thirsty, And the mother so sad. I don't think like boys. I don't think I like boys. And thought was swallowed. Last summer, when I staying on the river, there were two rude boys. The mirror's sons, who were always throwing stones at me. They never hit me, of course. We swallows fly far too well for that. And besides, I come of a family famous for its agility. It's agility. It's agility. 宮森さんこんばんは。来てくださってありがとうございます。But still, it is a mark of disrespect. But the happy prince looked so sad that the little swallow was sorry. It is very cold here, she said. But I will stay with you for one night and be your messenger. Thank you, little swallow, says the prince. はい、巨人さんこんばんは。Hello. What's for dinner tonight? So the swallow picked up the great ruby from the prince's sword and flew away with it in his beak over the roofs of the town. He passed by the cathedral tower, where the white marble angels were sculptured. He passed by the palace and heard the sound of dancing. A beautiful girl came out on the balcony with her lover. How wonderful the stars are, she said to her. And how wonderful is power of love. I hope my dress will be ready in time for the state ball. She answered, I hope all that passion flowers to be embroidered on it. But the seamstress are so lazy. He passed over the river and saw the lanterns happening to the masts of the ships. He passed over the ghetto and saw the old Jews bargaining with each other and weighing out money in copper scales. scales. At last, he come to the poor house and looking in. The boy was tossing Fever City on his bed, and the mother had fallen asleep. He was so tired, and he hopped and laid the great ruby on the table beside the woman's timber. Then he fell gently round the bed, fanning the boy's forehead with his wings. How cool I feel, said the boy. I must be getting better. And he sank into a delicious slumber. Then the swallow fell back to the Happy Prince. And told him what he had done. It is curious, he remarked, but I feel quite warm now, although it is so cold. That is because you have done a good action, said the prince, as the little swallow began to think, and then she fell asleep. Thinking always made him sleepy. When day broke, she fell down to the river and had a bath. What a remarkable phenomenon, says the professor of ornithology as he was passing over the bridge. A swallow in winter, and he wrote a long letter about it to the local newspaper. Everyone quoted it. It was full of so many words that they couldn't understand. Tonight I go to Egypt, said the swallow, and she was in high spirits at the prospect he visited of the public monument, and sat a long time on the top of church steeple. Wherever he went, the sparrows chirruped and said to each other, were a distinguished stronger. So he enjoyed himself very much. When the moon rose, he fell back to the Happy Prince. Have you any commissions for Egypt? He cried. I'm just starting. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince. Tomorrow my friends will fly up to the second cataract. The river house couches there among the bird-seed, and on a great grand granite throne sat the god Menon. All night long he watches the stars, and when the morning stand shines, he utters one cry of joy, and he is silent. At noon, the yellow lions come down to the water edge to drink. They have eyes like green berries, and their roar is louder than the roars of the cataract. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince. Far away across the city, I see a young man in the garret. He is running over a desk covered with papers, and in a chamber by his side, there is a bench of wizards. A wizard violet. His hair is brown and crisp, and his lips are red as a pregnant pomegranate, and he has large and dreamy eyes. He is trying to finish a play for the director of the theatre. But she is too cold to write anymore. There is no fire in the grate, and hunger has made him faint. I will wait with you one night longer, said the swallow, who really had a good heart. Shall I take him another ruby? Alas, I have no ruby now, said the prince. My eyes are all that I have left. They are made of rare sapphires, which were brought out of India India 1,000 years ago. Pick out one of them and take it to him. He will sail into the jungle and buy food and firewood and finish his prey. Dear prince, said the swallow, I cannot do that. And he began to weep. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince. Do as command you. 満点さん、こんばんは。本日私、ちょっと朗読配信をやっておりまして、あまり雑談などはできないんですけれども、ぜひとも素敵な時間を過ごしていただけると幸いでございます。So the swallow plucked out the prince's eyes and flew away to the student's garret. It was easy enough to get in, as there was a hole in the roof. Through this he darted, and come into the room. The young man had his head buried in his hands, so he didn't hear the flutter of the bird's wings. And when he looked up, he found the beautiful Sophia lying on the wizard violet. I'm beginning to be appreciated, she cried. This is from some great admirer. Now I can finish my prey. And he looked quite happy. The next day, the swallow fell down to the harbor. She sat on the mast of a large vessel and watched the sailor hauling big chest out of the hold whip loops. Heave ahoy! They shouted as each chest come up. I'm going to Egypt, I cried the swallow, but nobody minded. And when the moon rose, he fell back to the Happy Prince. I'm come to bid you goodbye, he cried. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, he said the prince, we will not stay with me one night longer. It is winter, answered the swallow, and the chill snow will soon be here. In Egypt, the sun is warm on the green palm trees, and the crocodiles lies in the mud and look lazily about them. My companions are building a nest in Temple of Barabok. And the pink and white doves are watching them and calling to each other, dear prince, I must leave you, but I will never forget you. And next spring, I will bring you back to beautiful jewels in a place of zeals you have given away. The ruby shall be leather than red rose, and the sapphire shall be as blue as grey sea. In the square below, says the Happy Prince, there stands a little match girl. She has let her matches fall in the gutter, and they are all spoiled. Her father will beat her if she doesn't bring home some money, and she is crying. She has no shoes or stockings, and her little head is bare. Pluck out my other eyes, and give it to her, and her father will not beat her. I will stay with you one night longer, says the swallow. But I cannot pluck out your eyes. You would be quite blind then. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, says the prince. Do as I command you. So he plucked out the prince's other eye, and darted down with it. He swooped past the match girls and swept the jewel into the palm of her hand. What a lovely bit of grass, cried the little girls, and she ran home, laughing. Then the swallow came back to the prince. You are blind now, she said, so I will stay with you always. No, little swallow, said the poor prince. You must go away to Egypt. I will stay with you always, said the swallow, and he slept at the prince's feet. All the next day, he sat on the prince's shoulder and told him stories of what he had seen in strange lands. She told him of the late Ibises, whose sound is long low of the banks of the Nile, and catch goldfish in their beaks, of the Sphinx, who is as old as the world itself, and lives in the desert, and know everything, of the merchant who walks slowly by the side of their camels, and carry amber bead in their hands, of the king of mountains of the moon, who is as black as ebony, and worships a large castle, of the great green snakes that sleeps in the plum trees, and has 20 priests to feed it with honey cakes, and of the pygmies who soils over a big lake on large flat leaves, and are always at war with the butterflies. Dear little swallows, said the prince, you tell me of marvelous things, but more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and of women. There is no mystery so great as misery. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me where you see there. So the swallow flew over the great city, and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses, where the beggars were sitting at the gates. He flew into dark lands, and saw the white faces of starving children licking all listlessly as the Brook Street, under the archway of a bridge. Two little boys were lying in our another's arms to try and keep themselves warm. How hungry we are, they said. You might not lie here, should the watchman. And they wandered out into the lane. Then he fell back and told the prince what he had seen. I'm covered with fine gold, said the prince. You must take it off, leaf by leaf, and give it to my poor. The living always think that gold can make them happy. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold the swallow picked off, till the happy prince looked quite dull of grey. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold he brought to the poor, and the children's faces grew rosier, and they laughed and played games in the street. We have bread now, they cried. Then the snow came, and after the snow came in the frost, the street looked as if they were made of silver. They were so bright and glistening. Long ice screws like crystal daggers hung down from the eaves of the houses. Everybody went about its furs, and the little boys wore scarlet caps and skated on the ice. The poor little swallow grew colder and colder, but he wouldn't leave the prince. He loved him too well. He picked up crumbs outside the baker's door when the baker was not looking as he tried to keep himself warm by flapping his wings. But at least he knew that he was going to die. He had just the strength to fly up to Prince's shoulder once more. "Goodbye, dear Prince," he murmured. "Will you let me kiss your hand? I'm glad that you are going to Egypt at last, little swallow," said the prince. "You have stayed too long here, but you must kiss me on the lips, for I love you." It is not Egypt that I'm going," said the swallow. "I'm going to the house of death. Death is brother of sleeps, is he not?" And he kissed the happy prince on the lips, and fell down dead at his feet. At the moment, a curious crack sounds inside the statue, as if something has broken. The fact is that the leaden hard hand snapped right in two. It suddenly was a dreadfully hard thrust. Early the next morning, the mayor was working in the sequel below in company with the town councillor. As they passed the crumb, he looked up the statue. "Dear me, how shabby the happy prince looks," he said. How shabby indeed," cried the town councillors, who always agreed with the mayors, and they went up to look at it. "The ruby has fallen out his sword. His eyes are gone, and he is golden no longer," said the mayor. "In fact, he is a little better than a beggar." "Little better than beggar," said the town councillors, "and here is actually a dead bird at his feet," continued the mayors. "We must really issue a proclamation. The birds are not allowed to die here," and the town clerk made a note of the suggestion. So they pulled down the statue of the happy prince. As he is no longer beautiful, he is no longer useful, said the art professor at the university. Then they melted the statue in a furnace, and the mayor held a meeting of corporation to decide when was to be done with the metal. "We must have another statue, of course," he said, "and it shall be a statue of myself." "Of myself," he said, each of town councillors, and they correlate かな When I last heard of them, they were quarreling still. What are strange things, say the overseers of workmen at the foundry. This broken lead here will not melt in the furnace. We must throw it away. So they throw it on the dust heap where the dead swallow was also lying. Bring me the two most precious things in the city, says God to one of his angels. And the angels brought him the laden heart and dead bird. You have rightly chosen, said God. For in my garden of paradise this little bird shall sing for evermore, and in my city of gods the happy prince shall prize me. ご清聴ありがとうございました。長い間見てくださってありがとうございます。チャンネル登録、高評価してくださった方、大変ありがたく思います。それでは、本日の配信はこれにて終わりとさせていただきます。拙い英語で配信をしてみましたが、皆様楽しんでいただけたでしょうか？楽しんでいただけたなら何よりです。それでは、おつべやー。